The castaways arrived at the challenge site on the morning of day 15, greeted by clear skies and a soft breeze cutting through the tropical humidity. Spirits were cautiously optimistic after a cold, stormy stretch of days. Jeff Probst, standing with a knowing grin, welcomed the players. "Drop your buffs," he said, his voice slicing through the air like a machete. "We are switching things up." Gasps and nervous laughter rippled through the group. Tension immediately replaced whatever calm the morning had offered. With no warning of a merge, everyone knew a new tribe swap could completely upend existing alliances and plans. Names were drawn one by one, randomly forming 2 new tribes of 5. The new yellow tribe emerged as Shego, him, Lois, King Boo, and Chica, a volatile mix of sharp personalities, original allegiances, and conflicting gameplay styles. Shego and him bonded from early yellow days and continued to build their alliance working against Lois. Lois now found herself sandwiched between old enemies and 2 unknown variables, King Boo, cagey and unpredictable, and Chica, robotic and unreadable. King Boo, clutching a secret hidden immunity idol, masked any discomfort with his usual eerie calm. The new blue tribe took shape with Velma, Jerry, Tommy, Muriel, and Cosmo, a bizarre blend of intellect, eccentricity, and raw emotion. Velma, fresh off a strategic blindside, was now with Tommy and Jerry from her original tribe, 2 people she trusted to varying degrees. Muriel and Cosmo, 2 of the last remnants of the disintegrated Purple tribe, found themselves completely outnumbered but not without hope. Muriel's nurturing demeanor and Cosmo's chaotic charm gave them a strange edge in social maneuvering. Plus she has formed a solid, but still untested, alliance with Jerry and Tommy, although Chica was now separated from them. One odd rock remained. Tigger, drawing the solo gray rock, was officially sent to Exile Island. Jeff announced that he would remain alone there until after the next tribal council, where he would then join the tribe that loses a member, potentially shifting their numbers and dynamics yet again. Tigger's wide eyes showed flashes of fear and curiosity. He bounced nervously, waving goodbye to his fellow players with a slightly forced smile before disappearing toward Exile, where only time and solitude awaited. He was excited, but nervous, for his solo adventure. With the tribes officially swapped, Jeff dismissed them with a familiar warning: in this game, trust is a luxury, and time is running out to establish that trust before the merge. Both new tribes departed the challenge site, already recalculating loyalties, searching for cracks, and plotting the next phase of their ever-changing journey. At the new yellow tribe camp, the energy was tense and uncertain as the 5 castaways, Shego, him, Lois, King Boo, and Chica, set down their new supplies and began to settle into an uneasy rhythm. The camp, once a familiar haven for Shego, him, and Lois, now felt alien with the addition of 2 unpredictable newcomers. Shego immediately took charge, directing the rebuilding of the fire pit and reinforcing the shelter, her no-nonsense demeanor slicing through the awkwardness. Him, flamboyant and sly as ever, floated between helpful and haunting, humming to himself as he reorganized the camp's supplies in his peculiar way. Lois, however, was less than thrilled. She excused herself to go on a bathroom trip, but really she just needed a moment to cry. Secluded in the jungle, Lois took some time to get out all of the emotions from the past 6 days. Being swapped onto a tribe with no numbers, losing her closest allies, and then being saved by Velma only to be immediately separated from her, Lois felt like she was set up to have a breakdown. As she cried to herself, Chica approached her. "I'm detecting frustration, or perhaps grief, sadness, loneliness. Are you okay, Lois?" Chica asked, with little inflection. Lois replied, drying her tears. "I'm okay, Chica. This game is just hard, you know? I've been through a lot. I'm sure you understand." Chica stood silently for a moment, and replied warmly, "I do understand. But the only way to make it better is to tackle the issues directly. Let's go back into camp, and maybe a coconut and a warm fire will help you feel better." Lois appreciated the gesture, but ultimately felt like Chica didn't really care. She wiped her tears, gave herself a small pep talk, and walked off with Chica. The 2 returned to camp as Shego, him, and King Boo worked on the shelter. "Sister Shego, looks like we got to stay together once again," him gloated publicly. Shego muttered a quiet, "Yes. How lucky for us," half sarcastic, and half grateful to have an ally. Both were irritated to be on a tribe with Lois, but glad to be away from Velma who had just betrayed them the night prior. "Chica darling," him shouted across the camp, "care to help move some stones with your how do I say this? Larger arms?" He tried to sound sincere and uninsulting, but no one was fooled. Chica silently rolled her eyes and went to assist. Lois, freshly saved by Velma's idol and now reunited with former allies who had tried to vote her out, wore a mask of composure but kept her distance through the afternoon, nursing a quiet storm of resentment. She made quiet casual chat with Boo. She had been on an original tribe with him, but they never really talked strategy. Best to just put on a nice face and pretend to be his friend. Chica, eerily quiet as usual, worked efficiently but mechanically, her robotic precision unsettling to some. She was hard to read, which made her a wild card in everyone's eyes. She was scanning the team for potential allies. All signs pointed to Shego as the one to go to. Chica made an active effort to stay nearby, making sure to come out of her shell when Shego was chatty. Him made that more difficult, constantly talking about fashion, decor, votes, and the sister squad having some open seats to fill. This type of personality was foreign to Chica, so she stayed quiet trying to take it all in. Meanwhile, King Boo drifted through camp like a shadow, watching more than speaking. He was polite but evasive, never giving more than he received in conversation, his secret hidden immunity idol weighing heavily in his pocket. He was unhappy to be on a tribe with Chica and Lois, and angry to be away from Cosmo. Luckily one idle play could change his whole trajectory on this tribe. He asked Shego questions about her personal life enough to open the door to strategic conversations. Yes, King Boo cheered to himself. She likes me enough to let me in. Time to plot and scheme. Strategically, lines were already being drawn. Shego and him pulled King Boo aside to feel him out. We liked how you handled yourself on your old tribe, Shego said coolly. You've been nice to us today. Plus you always look like you have yourself sorted. Maybe we look out for each other here, and take out one of these other girls. Are you and Lois tight? King Boo gave a ghostly chuckle but explained he and Lois never really bonded on Original Blue. He didn't fully commit to an alliance, but told a white lie that he overheard Chica and Lois bonding, aware this could make him the swing vote between two duos. He privately relished the power. Lois, feeling isolated, found herself gravitating toward Chica more and more during camp chores. In a surprisingly warm moment, Lois complimented Chica's fire-tending skills. Chica turned slowly, her eyes flickering. I am programmed to assist where I can, she replied, and Lois laughed despite herself. Their earlier encounter felt impersonal to Lois, but as the day progressed they learned how each other think and speak. The moment didn't bridge their gap entirely, but it gave Lois a possible opening. She later floated the idea of a women's alliance to Chica, who simply responded, I will consider it. Any alliance Chica was a part of, she wanted Muriel in as well. As the sun dipped low, him suggested a game of two truths and a lie to break the tension, which led to unexpected laughter, even from Chica, who beat at her own bizarre lie about drinking 12 pints of motor oil during a night out at the club. King Boo had the tribe in stitches, remembering a time he thought he was invisible, but was naked in front of his friends in college. Even Lois was laughing dramatically, retelling the drama between Francine and Ursula on their original tribe. Despite the strange mix of players, the tribe found brief camaraderie, but underneath the surface, paranoia was brewing. During the games and fireside chatter, him made eyes to Chica, trying to draw her in as a number. He whispered to Shego, our sister squad has an opening for a robot. One goes out, so do we replace her with another? And it's better for us to get a hold of her before she commits loyalty to Lois, Shego pondered, but wanted to wait to see how the dynamics evolved. Let's think on it and decide later. Tonight I need a break from the game. As night fell, the camp grew quieter, but minds remained busy. With so few players and loyalties blurred, everyone knew the next vote would be crucial, and no one wanted to be the odd one out. Day 15 at the new Blue Tribe camp was a day of adjustment, quiet maneuvering, and growing unease. With Velma, Jerry, Tommy, Muriel, and Cosmo forming this newly swapped group, everyone knew the game was shifting again, but no one was quite sure where the new lines would fall. From the jump, Tommy and Jerry made sure to split off together. With Chica now over on the new Yellow Tribe and separated from Muriel, their original four-person alliance was temporarily split, but far from forgotten. We have to hold strong until the merge, Jerry said quietly as the two gathered bamboo for firewood. Chica's sharp. She'll be fine over there. I'm glad we still have Muriel, and Cosmo or Velma would be any easy vote out here. But we need to keep ourselves safe until we can link back up. Tommy nodded, but was not stoked on the idea of taking out Velma. Jerry continued on, Velma's smart, but she doesn't know about Chica. Let's keep it that way. Velma, meanwhile, knew she was on shaky ground, but there was always hope. The original yellow numbers had been split, and despite her closeness with Tommy, she could sense his loyalty might lie elsewhere. She met up with Tommy briefly by the shoreline to exchange some information. Tommy, I'm so glad you made it this far and we're back together. Make any new allies on your swapped tribe? Velma asked, dicing in immediately. Yes. Jerry and Muriel. Tommy replied happily. I think they won't vote for me. That concerned Velma. If Muriel, Jerry, and Tommy were close, that left herself and Cosmo on the outs. And who would target Cosmo right now? Tommy interrupted her mid-thought. Do you still have that idol thingy I gave you? No, Velma said flatly. I had to use it to save a new friend. It was worth it. I think she'd work with us, Tommy. It's Lois. She tried to sound excited. Tommy was intrigued. That's good. I like new friends. Maybe we can all be friends together. You, me, Jerry, Lois, and Muriel. Tommy squealed with excitement. Velma was glad to have options, but with everyone so close, who would be the target? Muriel? It didn't sound like Tommy would be okay with that. Jerry? Him either. Cosmo, perhaps? Better to keep gathering info. Tommy continued to splash in the water while Velma walked off, telling him she was going to do some serious investigation work. That conversation was a bit reassuring. Still, she made subtle efforts to pull Muriel closer, knowing that Cosmo was too much of a wild card to rely on. She found Muriel helping Cosmo dig a fire pit and offered to assist. Feels like a fresh start, Velma said. I know it's awkward, but I'd really like to work with you. Muriel smiled politely, though didn't commit either way. Of course, dear. Cosmo wandered off as Muriel continued working on the fire. Velma couldn't bear to sit in silence knowing the numbers were up in the air. She pried into Muriel. So Muriel, I hear you're close with Jerry and Tommy. We could make a really strong four, Velma explained eagerly, almost like she was trying to convince Muriel. Muriel sat for a moment, and turned to Velma smiling. I am quite fond of them, yes. Hopefully you and I can become equally as close. You seem lovely, dearie. She turned and went back to work. Velma offered an alliance, but Muriel requested they start with a friendship first, saying she wants her friends to go far. Velma wasn't sure how to interpret the conversation. It seemed like Muriel's strategy was to be friends with everyone and hope for the best. Velma felt like Muriel was a puzzle, built for Velma to solve. Muriel was flattered by the attention but conflicted. Jerry had been kind to her since arriving and Cosmo, though chaotic, brought her comfort with his strange energy. I just want to play with people I can trust, Muriel told Velma later that afternoon. Not just who's winning, Velma nodded, reading between the lines. She had work to do. Cosmo, blissfully unaware of the deep strategic conversations happening around him, named the hermit crab Sir Bubbleclaws and built it a sandcastle throne. He got distracted halfway through by a butterfly and chased it into the jungle. Jerry approached him for a conversation, trying to gather info, but Cosmo was more concerned with folding leaves into fun shapes. As long as I'm not voted out, I'll just stick with my friends, Cosmo explained to Jerry, not really taking the time to think through logistics. Jerry rolled his eyes. That night, Tommy and Jerry talked quietly as the others slept. Velma's working too hard socially, Jerry whispered. If she doesn't vote with us, we're in trouble. We need to keep Muriel comfortable, but not let Velma drive the bus, Tommy agreed, though his connection with Velma was hard to ignore. I like her. She's my friend, Tommy admitted. But she doesn't know about Chica. Muriel joined them, asking Jerry if everything was okay. Jerry explained how they would need to decide between Cosmo and Velma, were they to need to vote. Muriel preferred the vote to go on Velma, while Tommy preferred Cosmo to go. Jerry felt like he held all the power, but had to be careful not to upset the balance of his alliance. He muttered under his breath, everything is falling into place. I love when a plan comes together. As the tribe drifted off under the stars, the tension was subtle, but real. No alliances were locked in, but fault lines were forming, and everyone was just waiting for the next crack. As Tigger approached Exile Island, he was filled with a strange combination of nerves and excitement. While he had no idea what was in store, and dreaded the thought of having to live alone for 2 days, he was excited there would be no one around to tell him what to do or when to do it. Plus all the space to bounce he could ever want. Upon arriving to the jungle of Exile Island, he found a note, but decided to take a nap before reading it. It's always better to read after a good sleep. That's what I've always said, and he took a nap through the afternoon. As evening arrived, he finally took time to read the note attached to the tree nearby. Welcome to Exile Island. While you may not have drawn the rock needed to land on a tribe at this swap, you will now be given the opportunity to earn an advantage in the game. Please select one of the 3 options below. Option 1, you will receive a clue to a hidden immunity idol which is somewhere on Exile Island. If you select this option and do not find the idol before leaving exile, you will receive 1 public penalty vote against you at the next tribal council you attend. Even if you have immunity at that tribal, you are not allowed to search for the idol if you do not select this option. Option 2, you will receive a meal of your choice, delivered to exile, and a 10-minute call home to speak with a loved one. You may select any foods, and have a 2-hour window to eat as much as you'd like. Option 3, you will receive tarps, blankets, pillows, a toolbox, and upgraded fishing gear to bring with you to the tribe you join after leaving exile. You may not use any of these supplies while on Exile Island, so which will it be? strategy, luxury, or practical supplies? Tigger took time to talk through his options aloud. Well, I'm not choosing number 1. I don't need that idle junk. It'll weigh down my bounces. And what if I lose it? Probably not even useful. And a penalty vote? Yikes. I don't even know what that is. That's scarific stuff. He pondered the other 2 options. If I choose the food and phone call, that would make up for not being on a tribe. But the supplies would help my future team. I'm hungry, but also want to stay dry. I wish I didn't leave my thinking cap at home in my treehouse. What would a Tigger with a thinking cap do? He sat in silence for a few moments before speaking decisively. But when it rains, it's so fun to jump in the puddles. I'm gonna take some yummy yum food, and call my friend Rabbit for some words of wisdom. Within the hour, Tigger was brought plates upon plates of his favorite foods. Ice cream, cakes, chips, and spaghetti tacos comprised most of the buffet, as everything was made to order. Soon after being stuffed from the delicious food, Tigger was given a phone to call his friend Rabbit for a 10-minute conversation. Rabbit congratulated Tigger on making it so far in the game, but urged him to think strategically. Most of Rabbit's advice was promptly ignored as Tigger couldn't contain his excitement upon hearing a friend from home. He talked nonstop about all the cartoons he's met on the island, and all the fun he's been having. Rabbit couldn't get a word in edgewise. At the end of the 10 minutes, Rabbit gave one final piece of firm advice. Tigger, you need to focus. You can do this. Bring home that win for all of us here in the 100-acre woods. We love you. Have fun, and be the best version of yourself you can be. The phone hung up, and the dial tone was all that was left. Suddenly it sank in. Tigger was all alone out here on exile, and he intended to enjoy every moment of it. He made himself comfortable under some leaves and branches, and settled in for the night, stomach full from his room service. Today was a great day to be a Tigger. The sun blazes down on day 16 as both the new yellow and blue tribes arrive at the Immunity Challenge arena, faces taut with anticipation. Jeff Probst explains the challenge, and both tribes quickly huddle up to assign roles. For this challenge, each tribe must select 3 players to row out to a buoy and dive down to retrieve 3 balls. Once all 3 balls are collected, the rowers will race their canoe back to shore and pass off the balls to the final 2 tribe mates who will use those balls in a table maze. The first tribe to get 3 balls through the table maze will win immunity and be safe from tribal council, where someone from the losing tribe will be voted out tonight. For the yellow tribe, Shego, him, and King Boo are selected as the rowers and divers, while Chica and Lois will handle the table maze. For the blue tribe, Velma, Jerry, and Tommy take the boat and dive duties, leaving Muriel and Cosmo at the maze. With a loud go from Jeff, both tribes sprint to their canoes and shove off into the water. The yellow tribe gets a strong, synchronized start with Shego setting a furious pace, him and King Boo matching her strokes. Blue struggles slightly as Tommy and Jerry row out of sync at first, with Velma trying to recalibrate the rhythm. Yellow reaches the buoy first. King Boo takes the first dive and snatches a ball on his first attempt with supernatural ease. He resurfaces with a flourish, dropping it into the canoe. Shego follows with equal skill, and him, with a surprising burst of grace, nails the third ball after a few seconds of disorientation. Blue isn't far behind. Velma is the first to dive, snatching her ball with methodical precision. Jerry struggles a bit, his dives lacking the depth at first, but on the second try, he recovers a ball. Tommy follows up with strong effort and retrieves the third, though the yellow tribe is already paddling back. Both tribes hit shore nearly neck and neck, and now the pressure shifts to the maze. Chica and Lois take the balls and work smoothly, with Chica's mechanical precision giving yellow a quick early lead. She adjusts angles with near-perfect accuracy, and Lois follows her guidance. Cosmo and Muriel, on the other hand, make an entertainingly chaotic pair. Cosmo tries to guide a ball with his fingers instead of the tilt mechanism, while Muriel patiently redirects him. Tilt it, Cosmo, not talk to it, she urges. Cosmo mumbles something about psychic energy. Yellow lands their first ball in the goal, then the second. Blue finally lands their first, thanks to Muriel's steady hands, but Yellow is already working on their last. With a dramatic tilt and Chica's metallic fingers steadying the edge of the table, the final yellow ball drops into the goal. Jeff raises his arms. Yellow tribe wins immunity. Cheers ear up from Yellow as they celebrate their first win as a new tribe, high-fiving and hugging. On Blue, faces are downcast. The mood is heavy, and all eyes flicker with nervous energy. Tribal council looms tonight, and for one player, the game is almost over. As the tribes leave to go back to camp, Lois and Velma exchange a quick nod from across the sand, acknowledging their alliance is still standing strong despite being separated. Back at the Yellow Tribe camp, the mood was noticeably lighter after their first immunity win as a newly swapped tribe. The victory felt especially sweet after a tough challenge, and everyone returned with smiles and a small sense of renewed confidence. Chica was praised for her puzzle performance, while King Boo received some subtle nods for his calm coordination during the canoe leg. Him, of course, made a show of the win, dramatically proclaiming that the tribe had slayed the challenge, drawing an unexpected chuckle from Lois and a faint eye roll from Shego. Without the stress of tribal council looming, the tribe spent the afternoon repairing their weather-battered shelter and drying out supplies. Lois took initiative, organizing the repair efforts with a mix of practicality and maternal warmth, surprising even Shego with her effectiveness. Shego, usually aloof, found herself chatting more openly, even pulling him aside to quietly propose working with King Boo moving forward. "I'm in on Boo," Shego said quickly to him while they poked at the fire. "And the more I've thought about it, the better it may be to try and stay on Lois' good side. We don't know what other allies she may have working against us." Him nodded in agreement. "So you want Chica out if we have to vote? Interesting. She'll never see it coming." He laughed evilly before Shego shushed him. "Play it cool, him. Stop trying to be a villain, and let's just play the game." Him rolled his eyes, and went back to humming a maniacal tune under his breath. Meanwhile, Lois and Chica continued to grow closer, sharing stories about their lives. Lois opened up about missing her kids, while Chica, robotic but introspective, spoke vaguely about her protective instincts and why loyalty meant so much to her. The bond felt genuine, even if Chica remained something of a wild card. Maybe Lois had misjudged her after all. King Boo all the while watched and listened to the conversations, still feeling like a potential swing vote, and with an idol in his possession, his database of player information was growing by the hour. The tribe ended the day in high spirits, finally feeling like a team. As they settled in for the night to sleep, Chica fell through the base of the shelter due to her heavy metallic interior, prompting laughs from the group. While no one was comfortable, at least tonight would prove to be a good night on the new Yellow tribe. Back at the new Blue tribe camp, the atmosphere was bleak following their first loss as a new tribe. With tribal council looming and no clear path forward, tension hung in the air. The usual routine of gathering firewood and boiling water continued, but conversations were hushed, eyes darting with suspicion. Velma, Jerry, and Tommy, once all on Original Yellow, now found themselves in a strange position, with Muriel and Cosmo maintaining their tight purple bond. Velma felt the vulnerability even more acutely, knowing she no longer had her hidden immunity idol to fall back on after playing it on Lois. But the past 24 hours had given her time to think, and time to plan. In confessional she outlined her thoughts. "Cosmo and Muriel are tight, and Jerry and Tommy are tight. That's two duos, so I could be a swing there. But it's more complicated than that. Tommy is my closest ally out here other than Lois, but it seems like Jerry and Tommy are all in with Muriel. That leaves Cosmo as the easy option. But is the easy option here what's best? I need to find a reason for them to turn on each other." Tommy, always more reserved, began to unravel. Quiet for most of the afternoon, he eventually wandered down the beach alone. Velma found him sitting by the tide, eyes wet, shoulders slumped. "It's all just hitting me," Tommy admitted, voice trembling. "I'm tired. I miss my mom and dad. I miss Spike. I miss Chucky. I even miss Angelica. I miss home. I thought I could keep going, but today, it's harder than ever. And now I have to vote someone I like out. This is my favorite team so far. What do I do?" Velma saw this as her moment. She came up with a lie on the spot, taking advantage of Tommy's emotional vulnerability. She comforted him for a moment and spoke very carefully. "Well, Tommy, I don't want to make your day worse, but I do have some bad news." Tommy looked up at her, eyes widening as he continued to sob. Velma continued, "This morning before the challenge, Muriel told me that we should vote for Jerry tonight. I think she's tired of him being bossy and crotchety." Tommy stood up. "What does that mean?" he asked earnestly. Velma explained, and asked Tommy what he wanted to do. Right as he was about to answer, Jerry was walking down the beach to talk. Seeing Tommy upset, Velma excused herself to let the two talk, in hopes of catching up with Cosmo and Muriel. Jerry approached Tommy, hugging him. Jerry sat beside him, placing a steady hand on his back. "You're still in this, and I've got your back." No matter what, that quiet moment of support strengthened their bond and gave Tommy the push he needed to stay in the game mentally. "Well, Jerry," Tommy said calmly, wiping his tears, "I think we may have a problem. Muriel is trying to get Velma to vote for you." Jerry gasped and acted immediately. "Well, this can only mean one thing." "What?" Tommy asked, not connecting the dots. Jerry's jaw tensed up. He stood and uttered, almost angrily, "We take out the farm lady. Original Yellow is back in action. Let's get to work." Velma, meanwhile, worked hard to stay composed after lying on the spot. She hoped no one caught on and that it wouldn't come back to bite her. She pulled Muriel aside, attempting a subtle pitch. I respect how strong you and Cosmo are, she began, but you've seen how unpredictable he can be. You don't want to end up in the final days dragging dead weight. Muriel, always kind but sharper than she let on, didn't give anything away, though her eyes flickered with thought. She didn't like how hard Velma was playing. She preferred the more relaxed gameplay of people like Jerry and Chica, and in no world was she turning on Cosmo. At this point she saw him more as a son than a competitor. Muriel excused herself to make a run to the water well, leaving Velma confused. Cosmo, meanwhile, remained his chaotic self, chasing a beetle around camp and crafting a vote armor out of palm fronds. But when he saw Velma and Muriel talking, his insecurity kicked in. He pouted to Muriel, asking if she was forming a betrayal gang, which made her chuckle but also highlighted the tightrope she was walking. Later, around the fire, Jerry started loudly clapping, garnering attention from all. Muriel asked what we were celebrating, and Jerry retorted snippily, the death of an alliance. Muriel raised an eyebrow, and asked Jerry to go on a walk together. He begrudgingly obliged. As the two walked down the beach, Muriel started to see Jerry was clearly upset about something. She dug in, but Jerry wasn't giving anything away, feeling betrayed. He broke the silence with a question. Muriel, are we together in this game? Muriel answered assuredly, of course, dear. We're in this with Chica and Tommy. And my sweet boy Cosmo. She smiled genuinely at Jerry, but Jerry perceived the encounter differently. Was she lying? Was this sweet older farm lady really a stone-hearted liar? His head says Muriel is a threat, and she needed to go. His heart wanted them to go all the way to the end together. But his spy intuition, that was another thing entirely. Jerry had some thinking to do. He pitched voting Cosmo as a distraction. He's unreliable in the long run, Jerry pitched. Muriel nodded thoughtfully. She had a decision to make: stay loyal to Cosmo and risk unpredictability, or shift course toward new bonds built on mutual trust and vote for Velma, who had been playing hard all day. Right before the two went back into camp, Muriel firmly pitched voting Velma. Jerry nodded, trying to assess if Muriel was manipulating him or not. As the sky darkened and the fire cracked low, everyone stared into the flames, each of them wondering if tonight would be their last. Tommy and Jerry whispered by the fire while Cosmo and Muriel had their final conversation by the shelter. Nerves were palpable, but none as much as Velma. No one had approached her all evening with a plan, and every time she tried to make eye contact with someone, they looked away to have another conversation. Whose game plan would ultimately prevail? Only the parchments tonight would tell. As night settled across the island, the new Blue Tribe made their way to Tribal Council, their footsteps heavy with the weight of an increasingly intense game. The torches flickered as the players took their seats, and Jeff Probst greeted them with a twist. Tonight marks a turning point, he announced. The person voted out will not be heading home, they'll be heading to the jury. From here on out, every vote counts toward who wins this game. Congratulations, everyone. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Muriel's eyes widened, and Tommy cast a sideways glance at Jerry. Suddenly, the stakes had doubled. No one wanted to make an enemy tonight, not with the jury beginning. Jeff launched into questions, starting with Velma. How does knowing the jury starts tonight change the game? Velma exhaled. It makes everything more real. You're not just voting someone out, you're potentially handing them the power to decide your fate in the end. Muriel nodded. I don't want to burn bridges, but sometimes you have to protect yourself, even if it leaves a scar. And with this group, I think that's needed. Muriel smiled gently. Cosmo's response was, characteristically, offbeat. I hope the jury snacks are good. The others chuckled, breaking the tension for just a moment. Jeff turned to Tommy and Jerry. What's more important tonight, trust or damage control? Jerry answered, trust is everything, but it's fragile. One bad move, and you're not just losing a vote tonight, you're losing one at Final Tribal. Everything you say around here matters. And tell you know the wrong person, the wrong thing could be the difference between first place and 11th. Tommy added quietly, you have to hope the people you like you back. Or else there isn't a point in playing. Jeff asked if anyone wanted to say anything before the vote. All eyes scanned the small group. No one moved. Velma, now without her idol, looked steely but tense. The votes were cast in silence, each one a silent whisper of a shifting alliance. Some players hesitated before dropping their parchment into the urn, clearly torn. This wasn't just about survival, it was about legacy now. Jeff returned with the urn and asked if anyone wanted to play an idol. No one stood. Jeff exhaled sharply, and read the votes. First vote, Velma. Velma rolled her eyes, expecting her name to come up again. Second vote, Muriel. Cosmo gasped and looked over at Muriel, who was smiling patiently and confidently. Third vote, Velma. Velma looked to Tommy, who smiled back at her. She couldn't tell what that meant. She clenched her fist. Fourth vote. Muriel. That's 2 votes Velma, 2 votes Muriel, and 1 vote left. Muriel and Cosmo held hands. Velma frantically glanced around, hoping to get any reading off of Jerry. Jerry stared straight ahead to Jeff, ready for his vote to be read as the final nail in someone's coffin. The 8th person voted out of Cartoon Survivor Season 1, and the first member of our jury, Muriel. Cosmo started wailing immediately. Muriel comforted him as she collected her belongings. Velma thanked Jerry and Tommy as Muriel approached Jeff. Muriel, the tribe has spoken. Her torch was snuffed. On her way out she turned to the blue tribe grinning before saying her final words. Play nice, dears. It was lovely to meet you all. I'll have some snacks and a home-cooked meal ready for you and jury if any of you are voted out. And with that, she walked away into the darkness. Jeff turned to the tribe of 4, and sent them back to camp, the air thick with tension, and Cosmo sobbing to himself after losing his closest ally. The blue tribe trudged back to camp under a moonlit sky, the air heavy with the weight of the first jury vote. Muriel's torch had barely stopped smoldering when the group was greeted by a bouncing, wide-eyed Tigger, fresh off his solitary stay on Exile Island, screaming in excitement. Blue Camp, my old friend. Oh how I've missed bouncing around your beautiful land. Though his energy clashed with the somber mood, it also provided a needed jolt. He greeted everyone enthusiastically, unaware of the emotional fallout from Muriel's blindside. Jerry tried to calm him down the best he could, as Cosmo continued to cry to himself. Velma, Jerry, and Tommy quietly reaffirmed their alliance now that Cosmo was outnumbered. Velma felt a small pang of guilt but reminded herself that surviving meant tough calls. Cosmo sat by the fire, distant and brooding, grappling with the betrayal and unsure of where he stood now. Tigger, oblivious to the political minefield, tried bonding with everyone, but his optimism only deepened Cosmo's sense of isolation. As the night wore on, Jerry pulled Tigger aside, subtly feeling him out for strategic potential again. Tommy joined, hinting at a possible 4-strong alliance. It quickly became clear Tigger was in over his head. Velma watched from afar, calculating whether Tigger could be controlled, or if he'd be a wild card. Cosmo, meanwhile, stared into the flames, knowing he'd need to play smarter than ever to survive. Velma smirked from the shelter, proud to have another target down.